Hello, and welcome to our Vodcast for our class EDUC 5199G, Teaching and Learning with Mobile Technology. My name is Lauren Hoofs, and I am a research assistant and full-time graduate student at UOIT's Faculty of Education. Today, my team members and I are going to be taking you through some of the issues that are related to accessibility and mobile learning, including an in-depth look at assistive technologies, the digital divide, as well as privacy and network issues. If you'd like to take a more in-depth look at any of these issues before viewing our vodcast, feel free to browse our web resource, which I am going to pull up for you right now. You can see the link up here, EDUC 5199G, accessibility.weebly.com. And we do have dedicated pages to assistive technologies, the digital divide, and network and privacy issues. And we also have a great page full of additional resources that can be consulted if you're interested in gaining even more insight into accessibility issues. Now, excuse me, before we get too far into our examination of these concepts, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our team members.
Hi everyone, my name is Justin Havelock. I am a high school science, math, and special education teacher. Almost finished my Master of Education at UOIT, and here I'll be speaking about assistive technology with accessibility.
Hi everyone, my name is Raven Hall. I am a high school teacher with the Durham District School Board, and I will also be talking about assistive technology with Justin, and I am also almost done the Masters of Education course as well.
Hi everybody, my name is Victoria Dykes. I'm working on my Master of Education as well, and I'm also a high school teacher with the Durham District School Board and a part-time college professor with Durham College in the School of Interdisciplinary Studies. And I will be talking to you today about the digital divide.
Hi everyone, my name is Jason Havelock, and I'm a secondary school teacher teaching math, science, and special education. I'm going to be talking today about privacy and network issues, and this is also the end of my Masters of Education program at UOIT.
All right, thank you, everyone. So let's get right into it. Justin and Raven, will you please elucidate us on some of the finer points of assistive technologies?
Thank you, Lauren. So I'm going to speak about accessibility with the iPad. The iPads, according to Phil Schiller, he's the head of marketing for Apple. There are about 1.5 million iPads in use today in education settings. This is as of January 2012. The Apple iPad is huge in education, and there's generally a positive trend with the Apple iPad on student learning, especially students who struggle with math. Students have been shown to have a greater retention in math using games to assist them in learning. So what actually does make the iPad so helpful for students with special education needs? Well, first of all, the iPad has a large screen, so students have easy access to communicate with symbols and do their work on the iPad. It's cost efficient, so once you purchase an iPad, it lasts for a very long time. They're lightweight, so students who have motor difficulties have easier times to carry around the iPad or use the iPad. They're customizable and individualized, so it helps to meet each student's needs, making them more inclusive. iPads also have more than 200,000 apps. Generally, the devices are socially acceptable. They're attractive. They avoid the stigma for students who have disabilities, so if students have iPads feel more secure and more inclusive as well. Also, a lot of the iPads include screen readers, so people who have visual difficulties or disabilities, there's an assistive touch feature for those who have motor difficulties. There are also captions, which support students with audible alerts, audible needs as well, or students who have hearing loss. There are also learning and literacy support, so there's dictionaries that can speak the word. There's text-to-speech support, which is huge for special education students. There's also something called the iBook, which allows students to highlight, to take notes, and bookmark difficult passages. So overall, the iPad is huge. So many benefits with special education students. There's also a new software called EasyWrite. This is still in the development process, but it's a text entry method for mobile devices, which basically means that people who have hand coordination problems helps them use small mobile devices or small computer devices. So for people who have difficulty using a smartphone, which is very small, the EasyWrite text entry method helps improve hand coordination and also typing accuracy and reducing frustration. So people who have difficulty writing on a small screen, this really helps reduce frustration and people who have motor disabilities when using small devices. Also, for people who are constantly using mobile devices and struggle with web page. So accessible web pages is another huge issue. So for students who have disabilities to access information, sharing their work, communicating with peers, it's important that we have web pages that are accessible for everyone, and we can take advantage of all the online learning options. So instructional software such as CDs, disc, other media, and documentation that allows students with disabilities to participate, collaborate, work side by side, create presentations, documents, spreadsheets, be part of simulations. It makes them feel inclusive. One final note, despite the success of providing access to, with assistive technology, a lot of the schools, the technology is there, but we don't have the availability. And it's important that we make it known that, yes, there are devices that can help students, and that we take appropriate methods to help secure and utilize assistive technology in the classroom. My school board has recently implemented a program where teachers can actually sign up for an iPad or a Chromebook and use this in the classroom. So it's important to get the word out and say, yes, the access is there, but we need to really push for availability in the classroom as well to really support and maximize student participation in the classroom. So I'm going to turn over to Raven, who's going to speak a little bit more about accessibility and assistive technology.
Thank you, Justin. So other issues that come with students with visual impairments is that a lot of times the screen reader does not work and is not compatible with all types of mobile devices, which can bring a challenge for students who have different devices, because if you have an iPhone versus an Android, it might not have the same quality versus someone who has another type of mobile device. Also, students with the screen readers, they usually have issues when the designers fail to add links and images onto the screen reader. So if you are in class and you have a visual impairment and the professor is trying to show the class an image and describe the image, the student might not necessarily understand what's going on because the screen reader is not identifying to them what the image actually is, which will be really difficult for them to learn in that type of online capacity. As well as with students with motor impairment. So if you have issues working your fingers and hands with a mobile device, a lot of the screens are too small for mobile learners to try and access the buttons and the different links, because they are on a very small device compared to something such as an iPad or a computer. And people with hearing impairments, a lot of audio is not actually set in a lot of the recent mobile devices, so a lot of them don't come with proper audio content, so the student with audio issues will lose a lot of the information that's being said in class if they cannot access it in an appropriate manner. And also with the screen quality, they can't adjust the brightness as much with certain phones as others, and also certain learners need the audio feedback, which still isn't available in most mobile devices, which can create a huge barrier for students who need this assistive technology to learn. And also with the screen magnifier, because mobile devices are a lot smaller, they also aren't able to zoom in on a certain part of the screen. So again, if you were a professor and trying to pull up an image of a reading, the student won't be able to see the full reading on a mobile device versus if they were on a desktop computer. So there are a lot of issues and when it comes to assistive technology and accessibility. So there's a lot of things that researchers have to figure out when they are trying to create an assistive technology device that's going to work for different types of learners and their different types of impairments. So with that, we will move on to the next point.
All right, thank you so much, Raven and Justin. And now we're going to go to Vicky, who is going to take us on a learning journey into issues related to accessibility and the digital divide.
Thank you, Lauren. So I'm going to talk today about the digital divide. I wanted to start off with an interesting statistic that I found. According to World Bank Group, in 2014, it was estimated that over 3 billion people worldwide were able to access and use the internet, which is a pretty significant number. The internet has significantly changed the way that we live our lives. So it's changed everything from how we do business to how we shop, how we look at diagnosing medical issues, and most importantly, how we learn. But in a world that's shifting so greatly, what happens to the people who don't have access to the internet? The dictionary actually now provides a definition for the term digital divide. which is essentially this lack of accessibility of online resources. So the digital divide is actually defined as a gap between the people who have the opportunity to benefit from these resources and also have the skills to benefit from these resources, and the people who do not have this access. And it comes from different factors, mostly socioeconomic factors like poverty, maybe cultural factors, and even geography and religion play a significant role as well. It's no secret that mobile technology is advancing quite rapidly, with new models and new versions of phones and tablets and iPads coming out annually, if not more frequently. It's really difficult for some families and for some people to keep up with the rest of society. So one of the big issues that I looked at in my research was this digital divide and how it's kind of becoming responsible and linked to mobile devices and what people have access to financially. It's being linked to social status. And this isn't a good thing at all, especially in a school environment, because we have a lot of bullying and cyberbullying as it is. And the last thing we need is for more students to be segregated into a different group because they don't have access to the same technology or device as everybody else. Digital divide also creates a lot of challenges for teachers. So pedagogically, especially with the implementation of the BYOD, bring your own device, teachers are basically limited to the weakest device in the room. So whichever student has the lowest, I guess, form of technology or the lowest capability, that's kind of what the teacher has to work with. They have to go with that. So it's difficult for teachers to plan around this because every device these days has different program capabilities and just different capabilities in general. And as a result, the teacher has to plan different backups for different lessons just in case a student can't access the program they're looking for them to access. Obviously, if school boards and schools could afford to get the same device for everyone, that would be ideal, but this isn't always the case. There was a really great case study that was done in New Zealand, and this was talked about in an article by Parsons and Adhikari. In 2012 to 2014, they ran a mobile bring your own device case study, and basically they found that there were several key challenges which were part of the digital divide. So just to finish off, I'm going to summarize what these key findings were, and then I will pass it over to the next speaker. But the first finding was that a tool is basically what it is used for. So it's only as good as what the tool is. Their capabilities are only as good as what the tool is. So again, this goes back to having the best technology that's available to you and the fact that not every family can afford this. Also, as learning increases, greater capabilities are often required. So if a student masters an iPad and uses the iPad to the fullest extent, they might need to upgrade to a MacBook next, and this is obviously much more expensive. Teachers and staff had a lot of difficulty keeping up with the latest advancements and the new programs that were available. And the last issue that the study found was that parents, in particular, indicated a lot of financial concern. So while they recognized the value of mobile learning, they had to operate within the confines of their own family structure and their own finances. And that kind of summarizes the digital divide.
All right, thank you so much, Vicki. So Jason, we're going to throw it over to you now. Would you like to tell us a little bit about the concerns with network and privacy issues?
Absolutely. So I just want to start off with a quote, and the quote and the source are both on our website. So the quote says, "I really believe that we don't have to make a trade-off between security and privacy. I think technology gives us the ability to have both." So with technology and mobile devices, clearly both privacy and network issues are certainly two of the biggest issues that we have to deal with. So with privacy, I'll talk about privacy first. So drawing a line between access and privacy can obviously be very difficult, as trying to get everyone to access one network leads to a risk of individuals' personal items being compromised or shared. That's including photos, text messages, or even their emails. A bring your own device approach creates privacy issues because users are bringing in their own devices of various makes and models. So there's very little seamless interaction of enterprise environment. So there's really no commonality between all the different mobile devices that are being used. Another issue with privacy is that while an employer does have a right to retrieve company data from an employee-owned mobile device, the employer has no right to invade the privacy of the employee. So how does this actually relate to the education? So how does this relate to school? So students have their own mobile device. What right does the school board have to access the personal information of the student? Also, for phones that are lost or stolen, obviously someone outside of the school environment could gain access to the student's information, to the school board's information. It's also important to be cognizant of issues when multiple users are accessing data wirelessly. So what happens is data security issues can arise when everyone is accessing open central, leading to privacy issues. One of the articles that a group posted on the Weebly looked at the challenges or barriers facing BYOD deployment, and the top 4 concerns were all related to security. So whether that has to do with mobile device security, data breach, or even with mobile applications, all that information being compromised is a serious concern for mobile devices. And although theft, cyber safety, virus control are all issues that we have to deal with, there are other issues as well, and that's what I would call a network issue. So I'm going to go through some of the network issues that have to be dealt with as well. So the first one looks at network overload. So essentially that's just that school networks, school wireless networks, can become overloaded if they're not appropriately designed to handle all the wireless devices. And nowadays we're seeing more and more mobile devices being used with the BYOD approach. Can the networks actually handle all these devices? There's obviously going to be problems as well with connectivity. Obviously problems with security. So making sure that your network does not permit access to administrative servers or private information. There's malicious apps. There's also overwhelmed tech support. So schools are going to require constant IT manpower to program hundreds or thousands of mobile devices. And when problems arise, teachers do not want to be wasting class time for tech support or for troubleshooting problems. Another issue, and I think Victoria sort of talked about this, was access to mobile technology. So employers should not think of a BYOD approach as a comprehensive solution to technology accessibility. The reason is that not all employees will own their own accessible device, and not every mobile device will be compatible with workplace software. And this sort of goes back to the whole digital divide, is not everyone has one, so we can't assume that they do. And to be creating an inclusive classroom, we have to be cognizant of those students who may not be able to afford or bring with them their own mobile device. And back to Laura now.
All right, thank you so much, Jason. So after hearing a bit about the issues and viewing our web resource, what do you think are some of the greatest barriers to accessibility in M-learning? And once more, I will pull up our website so that you can see we have the live Twitter feed at the bottom there. So please tweet us your response to the hashtag EDUC5199G, and hopefully we can get a conversation going. And once again, the question was, what do you think are some of the greatest barriers to accessibility and M-learning? And on behalf of the team, I'd like to thank you all so much for tuning in and watching our podcast. We hope that you found it both enjoyable and informative. Thanks.